All right, music fans, welcome back. Harmless Dave here, reminiscing, talking about real music, real old music in real time for real old people just like you and just like me. And if you don't fit the old description, or at least you don't feel old, that's the way it ought to be, right? Age is just a number. Rock and roll keeps us young at heart. Growing up in the 70s, people, I can't tell you how much I absorbed as a young child, musically speaking. Even though it was an AM radio, all right? Most of the time it was an AM transistor radio. I remember for the bicentennial, I had this red, white, and blue AM transistor radio. On-off dial and tuning dial. And that thing was my pride and joy. I wish I still had it just to have those kind of memories, and I would probably try to use it now and then just to see if I could get a station that plays music, since everything now on the AM band is pretty much talk radio. But back in those days, it was music. And yeah, the fidelity, it wasn't very high. unlike some of the people around me in those days. But growing up, I had the station wagon experience riding around with my parents, who I think put the radio on more as just like company and just to keep some sound going in the car. And they would play music that I would get into and that they would kind of make fun of, which was interesting. And then my sister, whose boyfriend at the time had a convertible. It was a GTX convertible. This car was just one of a kind, and we used to go cruising around. They would throw me in the back seat, literally, and I would slide around because the back seat was that real smooth vinyl, and so it was very slippery. They take a turn, and I'm like, whoa! So, yeah, that was my experience riding around. And one of the songs from the 70s that has stuck with me, that I'm sure it's stuck with a lot of people because it's so well written, is a song by this group called The Looking Glass, and a tune called Brandy. 1972. Okay, that's old. And you're thinking, okay, I still hear this on the radio. Of course you do. It's a monster song. In fact, it's got some sort of movie that it's in, Guardians of the Galaxy or something, and you're starting to see this stuff pop up online, and you're thinking, wow, people are really going back in time for music. Again, my theory is it shows you how bad the music is nowadays. This guy here, though, Elliot Laurie, kind of a unsung hero because he wrote this song. And the true story behind the song is he made the whole thing up. A lot of people think, hey, this story about the barmaid and the sailor and, he goes out to sea and so forth, and will he ever come back and rescue Brandy and so forth? You're thinking maybe there could be a sequel to this. Maybe someday someone should write a sequel. I think it's probably too late. The mystery behind all of it is intact, and your memories and so forth shouldn't be tampered with at this point. But Elliot Laurie, what a great song to write this and it to be this catchy and this interesting. The weird thing about The Looking Glass is, yeah, they were a good support cast for Elliot Laurie. And there was another guy in this group that wrote songs, and if you go and listen to the two Looking Glass albums that came out, there's like a competition between Laurie and this other guy. This other guy is writing kind of like a more country-sounding, stuff, and Laurie is writing more R&B pop stuff. And Elliot's stuff is way better, if you ask me. And, if the band had done a whole album of material that Laurie had written, I think they would have been better off. But, once you have a couple of AM radio singles, the record labels in those days would say, hey, you need to put out an album. So you got to scrounge together, 6, 7, 8 more tracks and slap an album together and so forth. They had a follow-up song from their next album called Jimmy Loves Marianne. Now you can guess that, again, it was Elliot Laurie who wrote the tune. Laurie himself would release a solo album later on of very high-quality material, I thought, and hard to find A few tracks are uploaded here and there to YouTube, and I believe you can buy the album as like a Japanese import or something. But it's tragic because Elliot Laurie should have been a much bigger rock star. If you watch him here, there's a performance video where he actually uploaded this himself, and he is singing live, but they're playing a track, which he admits that this is a live vocal, and it's a pre-recorded track. It's just the instrumental version of Brandy. And he sounds great, by the way. If I had the volume up, you'd hear that, but I don't want to get a copyright violation. What's amazing, again, about this guy is he had great instincts as both a singer and a performer, and not only that, he was a really good songwriter. And with a monster song like this, you would have thought that the record label would have sat down and said, hey, can you write another one of those? Can you keep trying to write more of those? Because the thing was just such a ginormous hit. The problem was, back in those days, you had to, like everything else, you had to strike while the iron was hot. The second single, I believe, stalled at number 33, and the band broke up not too long after that. But one of my great memories from the 1970s, and again, a song that continues to sort of regenerate every so often, appearing in a movie or a commercial or whatever. You might hear it at the grocery store, of course. But the song, for me, never gets old. It's like, I think, about a little over 3 minutes long, and it's 3 minutes of pop magic. It is one of those tunes that is nearly perfect. Perfectly written, perfectly executed. The bridge, the chorus, everything, the vocals, just superb. So there you have it. My story talking about Brandy. You might have your own Brandy story. These are lyrics that get stuck in your head, and as soon as the song comes on, I guarantee you, you're probably going to start singing it, and it's going to stay in your brain long after the song stops. This would be a song, by the way, I would take to the island with me if I had to take some music. This, and also Dancing in the Moonlight by King Harvest, which that's another weird story about that song, how it really resulted from a very sort of dark experience. Even though it's such a happy song, you wouldn't know it. But it was written in response to some bad thing that happened. In any event, Elliot Laurie, there he is, a guy who a lot of people have never heard of before. All right, I am done with this video. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't done so already. Hit the bell if you want a notification. And stay tuned. I've got more content coming your way. And don't forget about Patreon. Just $1 a month. I could see you over there, and we could talk one-hit wonders all day long. See you soon.